Before we begin, it's worth noting that despite working for a woke, dork, and dorkette-laden company, Christopher Perkins is a solid dungeon master. Welcome to this in-depth exploration of Dungeons & Dragons, D&D, dungeon mastering, DMing, through the lens of one of the most iconic and talented DMs in the business, Christopher Perkins. If you've ever delved into the vast worlds of D&D, you likely know Christopher Perkins as a master storyteller, game designer, and key creative figure at Wizards of the Coast. Known for his flawless execution and deep narrative storytelling, Perkins has become a go-to mentor for both newbie and experienced DMs. Today, we'll be diving into his top 10 tips to help dungeon masters, whether you're just starting or you've already spent years behind the screen. Tip 1. Focus on storytelling over rules. At the heart of every great Dungeons & Dragons game is an unforgettable story. Christopher Perkins has often emphasized the importance of making sure the story flows, even when that means bending or ignoring the rules. While D&D is a game that has mechanics and structure, Perkins encourages DMs to remember that the ultimate goal is to entertain and engage the players. For new DMs, this can be particularly freeing. Rules should enhance the experience, not hold it hostage. Don't be afraid to make quick, on-the-fly decisions to keep the momentum of the story going. For experienced DMs, this tip reminds us not to get bogged down in the minutiae of rule checking. If a rule is slowing down the narrative or confusing the players, adapt. The story always comes first. Quote from Perkins: "The game isn't about rules. The rules are there to facilitate a good time, not dictate what fun looks like." Tip 2. Know your players. A great DM tailors the game to their players' interests and personalities, and Christopher Perkins is a master at this. One of his most famous qualities as a DM is his ability to read the room and adjust the game's tone, pace, and challenges accordingly. For both newbie and experienced DMs, Perkins recommends paying close attention to your players, what excites them, what challenges them, and what they enjoy most. For new DMs, understanding that you don't need to follow a pre-written module to the letter is crucial. Be flexible and cater the adventure to your players' choices and personalities. For experienced DMs, this can mean evolving the way you run encounters or NPCs based on the group's evolving dynamic. By crafting your narrative with the players in mind, you're more likely to create an immersive experience that everyone enjoys. Tip 3. Be willing to say yes. Perkins is known for advocating the yes and philosophy. This is a concept borrowed from improvisational theater, where the idea is to accept what another performer presents and build on it. As a DM, saying yes can open the door to unexpected and exciting developments in the story. For new DMs, this means being open to player creativity. If a player wants to try something unconventional, like swinging from a chandelier during combat or negotiating with an enemy instead of fighting, go with it. Saying yes keeps the game fluid and fosters creativity. For experienced DMs, it can help break out of repetitive patterns, offering new storytelling directions you might not have anticipated. Perkins' insight. Players want to feel like they have an impact on the story. Saying yes allows them to push the boundaries of the world and make it their own. Tip 4. Prepare, but don't over-prepare. One of Perkins' most practical tips for DMs is finding a balance in your prep work. While preparation is important, over-preparing can be a trap. Perkins suggests outlining the basic structure of the session and then being ready to improvise. For new DMs, it's important to resist the temptation to script every encounter or predict every player action. Trust your instincts and let the game unfold naturally. Experienced DMs, too, can sometimes fall into the habit of over-preparing, especially when running complex campaigns. Perkins reminds us that the beauty of D&D is its unpredictability. Your prep work should give you a foundation, not a prison. Tip 5. Pace yourself. Perkins has often talked about the importance of pacing, particularly when running long campaigns. As a DM, you need to know when to speed things up and when to slow them down to let a moment breathe. Pacing helps build tension, excitement, and emotional impact. For new DMs, pacing can be tricky, especially when you're juggling rules, story, and player actions. Start by structuring sessions around climactic moments, but allow room for players to linger on important emotional beats. For experienced DMs, this is a reminder to avoid falling into a routine rhythm. Surprise your players by adjusting the pace to match the mood of the story. Intense battles should feel quick and relentless, while moments of revelation or exploration should give players the space to savor the narrative. Tip 6. Embrace player input. Christopher Perkins has always emphasized that D&D is a collaborative game. This means letting your players shape the world alongside you, whether it's their backstory affecting the plot or their decisions changing the course of the campaign. Perkins believes that the best games come from collaboration. For new DMs, this can be a great way to relieve some of the pressure of running a game. Encourage players to offer ideas or details that build the world together. For experienced DMs, consider allowing players more narrative agency, perhaps even letting them co-create NPCs or factions within the world. Quote from Perkins: "The more you empower your players, the more they become invested in the world and story you're crafting together." Tip 7. Be flexible with NPCs. Perkins is known for his rich and memorable NPCs, non-player characters. And one of his biggest tips is to keep NPCs flexible. You might introduce an NPC expecting them to be a minor character, only to find that the players are enamored with them. Other times, the players may completely overlook an NPC you thought would be important. For new DMs, the takeaway is to let NPCs evolve naturally in response to player interaction. Don't cling too tightly to your original plans. For experienced DMs, this advice can lead to unexpected narrative depth, where minor NPCs become beloved recurring characters and major villains take on new dimensions based on player input. Tip 8. Use humor wisely. Humor is one of Christopher Perkins' trademarks as a DM, and he knows how to deploy it with precision. While D&D can have epic battles and heavy emotional moments, humor adds a layer of fun that keeps players engaged and lightens the mood when necessary. For new DMs, don't be afraid to inject humor into your campaign, whether it's through a quirky NPC or a funny interaction between party members. For experienced DMs, balance is key. Too much humor can undermine the stakes of the story, but the right joke at the right time can make memorable moments even more impactful. Perkins' advice: a little humor goes a long way in making a campaign feel human and relatable. Just be careful not to overshadow the drama when it counts. Tip 9. Create memorable villains. One of Christopher Perkins' specialties is creating villains that players love to hate. Memorable villains are more than just obstacles. They are fully realized characters with motives, personalities, and flaws. Perkins often speaks about the importance of making your villains feel real and relatable, even if they are despicable. For new DMs, this means giving your villains more than just a generic goal of taking over the world. Think about their motivations and what drives them. For experienced DMs, this tip can serve as a reminder to avoid one-dimensional villains and instead focus on creating antagonists with depth and complexity. Quote from Perkins: "A great villain is one the players want to defeat, not just because they're evil, but because they've made it personal." Tip 10. Have fun. At the end of the day, the most important advice Perkins gives to DMs is to have fun. The job of the Dungeon Master is unique because it blends creativity, improvisation, and leadership. But at its core, it's about having a good time with your friends. Don't lose sight of the fact that D&D is a game. For new DMs, remember that your enjoyment matters just as much as the players. Don't stress too much about getting everything perfect. For experienced DMs, this tip serves as a reminder to keep the fun alive and avoid burnout. Running a campaign is a marathon, not a sprint, so make sure you're enjoying the process. Perkins' golden rule: if you're having fun, chances are your players are too. Conclusion: Christopher Perkins' mastery as a dungeon master comes from a balance of preparation, creativity, and flexibility. Whether you're a newbie DM or a seasoned pro, his tips can help elevate your game and make every session more engaging and memorable. At the end of the day, it's all about crafting stories that you and your players can cherish. So, go forth and conquer, and remember Perkins' words: the game is as fun as you make it.